Good afternoon. As Jim said, my name's Darcy Stitt. I am with the Ohio Department of Transportation. I've been with the department for 30 years. I started in the construction division and worked there about 15 years, and then I moved into the maintenance division for about 14 years, and the last year I have spent in our finance division. So I've kind of been all over the department. I have been involved with our Agile software program since before implementation in our state. So I'm going to talk about today our liaison history. EIMS, we have an acronym for every system that we have at ODOT. We have EIMS, we have TIMS, we have RIMS, we have HIMS, we have TISMO, we have it all. So don't be confused, that is what we call our Agile system, is EIMS. Okay, sorry about that. So today I'm going to talk about the history of our system, our steering committee that we've established that has governance over our EIMS system, the challenges that we faced with the system, where we're at today, and the next steps for our liaisons. So a little bit about our state. ODOT is comprised of 12 districts and a central office, which is located in Columbus. We have 88 counties. We have about 3,800 registered users in the system, and on an average daily basis, daily user is about 1,500 on any given day. So we have a lot of users. We implemented our system in 2014. We replaced two legacy mainframe systems, our equipment management system and our transportation management systems. We also moved our lands and buildings inventory to the EIMS system, and it is our book of record for labor, inventory, and costing. So we get all of our overhead rates out of the information that we put into the system. So we have 5 modules at the state. We have the resources module, which is where we manage our inventory, of course. The roadway module, our fleet module, we have the facilities module, and then we have a PEC module, which is planning, engineering, and construction. That is a customized module that Agile worked with us in building before we went live. It's where all of our construction and planning PID charges, labor is recorded, and that is how we bill the feds. And tomorrow, or Thursday afternoon, Jim Snyder from ODOT is going to speak in great detail about that module and how we use it. So like I said, we implemented in 2014, but before implementation, we actually had traveled to a couple other states, Louisiana and Idaho, to benchmark from them, learn some things from them. And one of the things that they did suggest was that we establish a steering committee or a governance board for the program. And since we did have, we're going to have a lot of modules, well, we decided to establish a steering committee, and this was comprised of district users, central office personnel. A lot of people on the committee are people that participated in our requirements building when we were designing the system and working with Agile on how we wanted our system to work. So each module is represented. We have at least one person that's an expert in that module. And we support the districts and central office divisions on the steering committee. We review all the system issues, recommend enhancements. We have oversight for all the activity codes, the business rules, and the processes. Last year at this time, we had recorded, the steering committee had an issues list of over 200 issues that were ongoing in the system. And those were issues anywhere from major enhancements or something that didn't work to, I don't like where this column's at and I need you to move this column. So the steering committee was trying to field all of those issues and take care of all those issues. So some of the challenges that we faced early on is just preparing and how do we train all of these users in implementation before we implement. So we decided that we were going to have some subject matter experts for each module in each district. And we call those SMEs. So each district was asked to pick 4 people from their district. You could pick more than that if, say, the roadway module, since that had the most users for us. Maybe you had 2 or 3 SMEs in your district. Those people were the ones that were going to train, be the experts in their module, and then unbeknownst to them, some of them, after implementation, they were supposed to be the support people. That's who your district people and users were going to go to, and you had to continue that on. So that was a shock to some of them, and they weren't always volunteers for these tasks. So we had over 50 subject matter experts in the state, and that's not counting some of the ones that were in central office too. So we implemented, and of course we had 50 people telling our end users 50 different ways every day of doing things. And it's really interesting when we go out now to our field locations and we hear about the innovative ways they're doing things in the system, or they can't do something because they were told they weren't allowed to do it, but they can't tell us who told them how to do that. So we really started to see some issues, data issues, and there just wasn't any structured guidance from central office. Our central office, really, we don't have a lot of end users in our central office. They're mainly the administrative personnel. They're the ones that are pulling the data out. So they really, I don't want to say didn't care, but they didn't really have any input on the issues that we were dealing with in the field. So here's our little steering committee, and there is our little group of subject matter experts. And you know, on the steering committee, since our 2 legacy systems that we replaced, just to give you a little brief history, managers did not touch those systems. They didn't have to input data. They did nothing in that system. They didn't even have to run reports out of that system. Typically, we would have the clerks enter the information, or the office person entered the labor cost. So we went from these managers doing nothing to all of a sudden here's EIMS, and here's, you know, 25 intimidating screens of data that you now need to go in there and find how you can approve things and run reports and things like that. So we really dropped the ball on that one. We did not have a good change management plan in place. So hence, this was our users very quickly on. And probably for about 6 to 10 months after we went live, our users were just sort of floundering, is a good word, out there, trying, again, the subject matter experts. Some of them just wiped their hands of it and said, I'm out. I don't know, I don't understand myself, so I can't help you. So our users really didn't have any place to go. And when you say the word steering committee, you know, a lot of them were very intimidated by that. So, you know, we'd say we had a web page. Well, call somebody on the steering committee, but they didn't know those people. Those were, you know, central office people. So they really were just confused. So the steering committee said, you know what? Okay, this is an issue. The system is getting very negative reviews. We had disgruntled users. And just people just throwing up their hands. So we said, well, let's establish a governance structure. These people, we need to have structure on what happens and who these people need to go to. So our proposed structure was, of course, we started with executive leadership, which is our 4 assistant directors and our director of the department. And they only become involved when we need the big decision, and that would be an enhancement type thing or a big policy decision. Then we have our executive sponsors. Those are 5 people, there is the Deputy Director of Operations and the Deputy Director of IT. And then we have the Administrator of Finance and Tech Services on there, and the Administrator of IT also. So that's the group of, we call them, I won't tell you what we call them, the group of people that the steering committee goes to if we need a decision that we are not comfortable making. So we make recommendations to the executive sponsors on which direction we need to go. We also were proposing a statewide coordinator. We did not have that position. And Louisiana was very clear that they did have that position and that worked for them. And we said, I think it went in one ear and right out the other. So that was a position we needed. And then we wanted to propose these district and division liaisons. So that would be a person in each district, one person that our users went to, one person that the steering committee or the statewide coordinator needed something in that district. That would be the person responsible for those issues, answering those questions in that district. And then, of course, our end users. So we had to take this recommendation to leadership, and the critical pieces of that governance structure were the statewide coordinator and the district liaisons. And we did propose that those be full-time positions. We saw the need on the steering committee. There is, again, 5 modules, a lot of data, a lot of end users, and it would be a full-time job. And we did have a list of job duties. We had roles and responsibilities established. So they did agree that the statewide coordinator needed to be a position. That is a position now that resides in the finance section of our central office. About 80% of his job duties are EIMS. The other 20% is some cost accounting things. Because again, we do get all of our overhead rates from the data in the system, so he is responsible for that too. That position, we just actually filled that last November, I think, November. The district liaisons, we weren't so lucky. The district deputy directors decided that at that time they really didn't know if the system was working for us, and so we are not gonna commit to a full-time position, but we will commit to selecting an individual in each one of our districts that is going to be that liaison, and they would incorporate the liaison role responsibilities that we wanted into their current job duties. So we got half of what we wanted, and then we saw that central office, we also needed liaisons in central office. So we have liaisons, 4 liaisons in central office, 1 in planning, 2 in construction, and then 1 in the operations division. So that's how the liaisons started. So what do they do? What really are their responsibilities? They're the primary contact, again, for all of our end users in those districts. That's worked very well because they know those people. They know that those people know what they're talking about, and they're very comfortable going to their liaisons now when they have issues and things like that. They take direction from the steering committee through the statewide coordinator. That's not to say they don't still have to listen to their deputy directors and their administrators in their districts, but mainly they take direction from us. They monitor all the EIMS data that's going into the system for business rule adherence and are we following the right process? Are we putting the data in there? We had some locations that weren't even entering data in there. So they also are supposed to perform all the training in their districts. That's one area that we still are really working on, is the training area. The liaisons, some of them are not trainers and they're not comfortable training. So right now we're talking about how do we handle that, and we need to have a firmer training plan in place. So we also too, if we're training a district request training, if that liaison's not comfortable, we can get an adjacent liaison, we'll come over and do the training, or we follow that route. They are performing the analysis on our data results, on the reporting They communicate to the end users any system enhancements that we're putting in, any modifications, any new processes that we're going to start doing in the system. And probably most importantly, I should have put this on the top of the list, is they provide that daily support to the end users that they didn't have before. So we're starting to see now a lot better data going into the system. People are actually running reports out of the system on their own, and it's all really because of the liaisons, are out there and being that one-on-one person that they're comfortable with. We have a monthly teleconference call with the liaisons, the statewide coordinator does, and that is to discuss any issues that they have, any questions that they have. Sometimes it's for us to get information out to them also. So it's only, a half-hour phone conference call. But it's just sometimes we don't have anything and we just talk about new ideas and things like that. So we have quarterly meetings with them face-to-face in our central office. And we've been doing that. We've had 2 of those now. And it's kind of worked out where we actually just got done with a major system enhancement, and we had a quarterly meeting, so we brought them in and gave them face-to-face training on that enhancement and how it worked, things like that. They participate in the monthly steering committee meetings. They call in. We have a set time, an hour of that day-long meeting that they can call in. They don't have to sit on the phone for the whole meeting. And so they call in and they can, listen to our updates and things like that, ask questions, things like that. They're beginning to, this is a new role for responsibility for them, organize and be the facilitator for user groups in their district. That's a great, just like this conference is a great way to generate new ideas and new processes in the system. So we're starting to do that with the liaisons. So, any questions so far about our liaisons? Yes. We're just starting that. We're just starting to get that that rolling. But my hope is that it will start to facilitate getting training rolling, because we recently this summer, again, like I said, the system was getting quite a large black eye across the state. And is it the system we want to stick with? The users are so unhappy, So we were tasked. A couple of us were tasked from the assistant directors, go visit these locations one-on-one and talk to our end users, and we want to know what really is going on out there. And so we went to 17 locations, and 3 of those weeks, I believe it was 3 of those weeks, yes, Agile actually sent 2 people with us. They came all the way to the state of Ohio and got to ride around with us across the state and talk to our end users. And a lot of what we saw, it was very rewarding. We were, as I think Daryl had put it, we were rock stars when we left those locations, because sometimes it was just a matter of, they'd say, it doesn't do this, and we'd find out, well, you're not clicking in the right place, or, you go to this screen to find that. Or we had one mechanic who was typing his VIN number every time. He didn't know how to copy and paste in the system. So we showed him that. He almost cried. He was so happy because, we just went from a 20-minute task in the system. Now we've got that down to 5 minutes in the system for him. So those simple little things. But some of the locations we visited, some of the people out there were so proficient in the system, and they knew that system, and we write those names down like, that is a person that is a great user that could be a trainer if they're comfortable with it, and get them in that role. Yes, Robin. So the liaisons, when we went live, the liaisons weren't the trainers, the subject matter experts were. And it did not work very well. So you did have like a standard? We did have a standard training manual that everybody had. We had a train the trainer session, of course, with Agile for a week. What we didn't have and what we lacked was we didn't have our defined business process flows incorporated in that training. So every district does things differently, no matter what you tell them, as you know, I'm sure that's the same at any DOT. But we had, for example, one district who the trainer decided, the SME decided that her district, she didn't like the approve all button. You can right click and approve all. So she was making her people click every box. Every labor approval, every entry had to be clicked. That's how she trained so they would become familiar with the system. Well, that entire district, all 7 counties, for a year, clicked every box. And then we went there and said, well, you can approve all. We're not allowed. In training, we were told we couldn't use that. So, you know, so now the liaisons, and I'm a district liaison, and I probably have done the most training, but our other liaisons, we have job aids. So more than formal manuals, it's more, I guess, hands-on and interactive. It's small groups of people. So I just did a training for mechanics, and we only had 10 people. That's all we had.
Did you train based on their position, or did you train based on the location?
We like to train we try to train based on their position more than on that location, because, you know, as well as I do, again, people do things different ways. You know, the mechanics don't care what their managers do, and they care about what they're supposed to do in the system, you know. It doesn't always work out that way. I just did a training in a district in the southern part of the state, and we had a mix. We didn't have mechanics, but we had a mix of managers and clerks. Now, we had pretty proficient clerks in there, but again, the training probably could have been a little more valuable if we just could have directed it toward managers and not, you know, that way. We wanted to train when we went live very close to implementation, and so it was it's a lot of information to train about, especially with how many modules we had. And our managers in maintenance touched the fleet module and the roadway module. So that was a very that was a big struggle for us, because they got double the training too. So, but I would suggest the job aids have been great for us. Just one piece of paper. This is how you do that process in the system. We've been talking about recently trying to do, like they talked about earlier today, videos. A lot of people like videos. And everybody has dual screens now, it seems like, at the department, so they want to watch the video, and while they're watching it, actually perform it on this screen. So that was one of the lessons that we learned. So where are we at today? So this is our little Gartner hype cycle, which I believe this is when a new technology is going to be introduced into a business. Of course, we have the technology trigger. There's a reason that you're going to implement that new software. And we had an archaic mainframe system. We couldn't plan our work. It was time for it to go. So then you have the peak of inflated expectations. We certainly had that at ODOT. This is, we're going to have this, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have mobile, and we're going to have all this, and it's going to do this, and we were all ready to go. And then we implemented, and we were right down there in the trough of disillusionment. It took a couple months to get there, but we got there. And we, unfortunately, we're stuck there for a while. Again, this is a big system, and it was a big change. And I feel sometimes personally that, you know, we needed to have our own team, and that's what we did. And we didn't. We started to try to incorporate that in everybody's job duties, and everybody, you know, is doing more with less, and had a lot of things on their plate. So the liaisons, once we got them on board, which was about a year ago also, we're climbing back up out of there, and we're really seeing a big shift in the user's attitude about the system. The 17 locations that we went to, we actually only heard, I think, two people say, I hate it, it's stupid, get rid of it. It's the stupidest program we've ever had at And she was retiring the next week, so. And the other guy, I think Mike, you were with us. The other guy, he just kept saying it's dumb, it's just stupid, get rid of it. And so we kept saying, what is it about this system? What is not working for you? Tell us. And he said, I don't know. I don't get in there. I've never used it. But it was dumb. So those are kind of the walls that we hit sometimes. But unfortunately, those are the loud voices are the ones that are heard. And so that's what our leadership was hearing. So by going out and visiting those locations, and that's why we are asking the liaisons to go back out there once a month. And if you only hit one county a month, that's what you hit, and just sit with your users, and talk to them and see what they're doing and watch them do that process, and you usually can help them do one thing and learn one new thing, and they're much happier with the system. It's helped also that we have a great IT team who, now that we've sort of shrunk the issues list a little bit, we can address some of their issues in-house. So we've, instead of, tackling those huge things that take a long time, those huge enhancements, we've kind of focused now on, we need to move these columns because the mechanics don't want to scroll all the way over here. They want to see this. I'm not scrolling. I just want to do this right here. So we've done a little bit more of that in-house type of cleanup thing that's really helped our users too. So we do have some next steps for the liaisons since they're in their, yes. They typically, if a liaison finds a little tip or trick, they'll tell myself or our statewide coordinator, and we try to, we include that in the notes so they get back out there. Our liaisons, they're not perfect. Some of them, they don't all, their positions all aren't in, say, finance. Some of them are most of them are roadway people. So we do see that, that becomes your priority is the division that you work in. We do have some work to do as they find their place, also with what, they should be doing and what their roles are. But yes, definitely, we try to get that information out there a lot. But as you know, sometimes you can send a lot of information out to people and communicate a lot, and they don't hear you, So we have found that one-on-one visit really is really the most helpful. So the next steps for our liaisons is I am not myself. I'm very proficient in fleet and roadway. I am not really that great in facilities. So, we are going to task them with, themselves getting some more training, whether you go sit with a liaison who is proficient in that, so that they are truly the expert in all of our modules. We're starting to look at quality assurance. So we're going to start developing some what we call exception reports. So are you following the business rules? Are we looking at our data? Are we scrubbing our data? What does it look like? And user support, we want them to provide, again, more needs-based training instead of saying we're going to have this general refresher training. This is truly, a needs-based. What do you need? Mechanics, what do you want to learn how to do? Do you want to learn how to do reports? Do you want to learn how to do something else in the system? So more of that. We also want to accumulate that feedback, just like you suggested, into a knowledge base. So here is our data knowledge base, and here are our facts, and here's how you do things in the system. And then again, foster that presence of a true EIMS user community. So we want to, as Jim said, I have 30 years at ODOT, and I've been involved with the EIMS system a lot, but I need that knowledge, my knowledge of how we work in the system has to get out of me and, get that to more users and involve more users and involve more people at ODOT in the system and being a part of decisions in the system and how can we do new innovative things in the system. We happen to have a work request screen in our roadway module. And we were actually talking about asset management one day at the department, and one of our bridge engineers said, EIMS, and he doesn't enter any time into EIMS. And he got to thinking about that, and he didn't know me, but he knew who his liaison was. So he went to his liaison and said, hey, I have this idea. I want my bridge engineers to use the work request in EIMS to tell maintenance what work my inspectors want them to do on a bridge. So we got a little focus group together and got some people in the room, and we started talking about what did the bridge engineers need and how can we change that system. And so we are modifying our work request screen in EIMS in-house. So the bridge engineers, and we're going to give them access, and that's going to be a new process that we're going to do in the system. So, again, the liaison, him not knowing us, but knowing her, took it to her, and then, so we want more of that to happen, so more people get familiar with the system and we use it, the most efficiently and effectively. It's a big system, and we have a lot of modules in the system that we, that we use, so that, yes, questions? I think that they do. I really think that they do, especially when they bring a suggestion to us and they actually see that we took their suggestion to heart and we changed something in the system, and that was because of them, and they know it was because of them. They do feel more empowered to, hey, that is my system now. It's not central office's system or whoever's. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, when I talked about we had 2 or 3, is we had in each module. So say, for example, we had a person in facilities, we had a person in roadway, we had a person in PEC, and we had a person in fleet. So in each district. So it was just too many cooks in the kitchen, and like, for example, our fleet module really touches our roadway module, but those 2 people were like, they didn't talk to each other and they didn't care. This guy didn't care what roadway was doing. So so it didn't work. Yes.
Yes. I just wanted to echo most of your comments. We went through so much of the same things that you're talking about, and then I'll throw myself under the bus a little bit. In that 5 years after we implemented, we're only now beginning to look at, recognize those things, and implement changes similar to what you described. You described small work aids. We've just finished developing a couple of those that we're just putting out in the field. Super users or subject matter experts. These are all things we're just beginning to deploy. Haven't really just recognized that we didn't have some of those things in place. Or we did have some of them in place, and we kind of let them just fall through the cracks over some deep periods. Or a few of them failed because they didn't want to be that after they saw what was involved. But I so appreciate your learning curve thing you had up there. It's definitely
Well,
and I've worked on both sides of that as the dreaded IT guy and the
yeah,
IT side.
yeah.
So I've done both with
And again, I like when we visited Louisiana and even Idaho, and I pull out those notes from those benchmarking trips, and I read through them, and I think, we didn't do any of this stuff that they told us we needed to do. What were we thinking? So again, it's taken us, and it's unfortunate that this system had to, get the bad name that it did because we, were, not paying attention, and it just takes you, that long to get, I guess, organized to that point. But we really feel that the liaisons, that is working right now for us. We've seen a big change in our users' attitude because we've given them that person. And we're finding too now, about a year into these liaisons, that maybe we've already had one district change liaisons. That person just wasn't the right fit for that job duty. So that's changed. But you have to sort of be flexible with that too. And it's a tough decision to say, that liaison's not working out. It's in the trash. Don't even. I don't know why we
started rebuilding a training curriculum now that's completely different. So
Yeah,
Totally appreciate
yeah.
what you're saying.
We spend a lot of time on training manuals. We spend so much of our time on training manuals, and guess what? The job aid, the one piece of paper is really what they wanted. They don't want to look at that training manual. So again, that's what we're in the process now of rewriting our whole process and procedures manual and incorporating job aids instead of a training manual in that. So, yes.
Echo the same thing. 2 years ago, we went to Gartner for 5 systems, and they sort of took it all clean and financial. And like skills, went through the same curve you went through. We got liaisons, got 6 liaisons in districts or statewide. And getting those in the right spot at the right time and getting the user group meetings is a big key to get the buy-in from the districts. I say, yeah, I appreciate the information. Wish I'd had it 2 years ago.
Yeah, so do we. Yes, Robin.
Did you, pick your district liaisons, or did they volunteer?
So the district deputy directors, which are the big wigs in each district, they selected with their administrative team who the liaison would be. Now, I know in some cases it was a no-brainer because, like myself, I was on the steering committee already. I was a subject matter expert in roadway, and so my deputy director knew I would probably be the one that he needed to pick. Other districts, it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't so clear. I know, I certainly don't think that they, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim or Mike, if you know this, that they actually asked for volunteers to do it. I know in one district there was some toes stepped on because none of the subject matter experts were the ones that were chosen to be the liaison.
Did you present those job duties to them, at least the job duties to them?
Yes.
Before they picked?
Yes, we sent those job duties out to the deputy directors and said, this is what they are going to be responsible for. And some of them now are struggling with the amount of work they do in EIMS and their other job duties. So what we're seeing now is we've actually had a couple districts that have created positions, and that we have one district, strictly EIMS. That's all that liaison does. So the deputy directors have kind of went back on what they originally said, some of them, and then they're seeing the importance in that and the value of that, especially now that we're really getting proficient in our reporting and getting that data out and analyzing that data. They want that person to, to do that and focus on that. And when we do have bad data, cleaning it up, that's a full-time job. So we're seeing that start to be the norm now with those positions being posted and filled. So, anything else?
We got time for one more quick question.
I wanted to make a quick comment on
Okay.
how much I appreciate your talk here, because I've seen over my career a lot of problems that come up from just lack of training, lack of communication, apathy for the end users that weren't part of it. And that type of support from the top and building of that liaison and training structure, I think is super valuable. And I appreciate everybody else chiming in with their experiences on that as well. And the comments you made about the SMEs, some of them aren't really trainers. And to be a trainer, to stand up and do what you just did, deliver a wonderful presentation to us so we understand it and stay interested, is not an easy thing. So picking the right people
Right.
that know the system and can interact with people like that, that's super important.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's that's our next challenge, though, is finding, that those trainers to do that. So,
Yeah. Let's give
Okay.
Darcy a big hand.
thank you.
Great point.
Thank